Well, good morning, and I picked a very, very special day because it's Melania's birthday. So I said, let's do it on Melania's birthday. So happy birthday to Melania.
All right. Hopefully there'll be visits in between, but have you decided on, or do you want to tell us what you got her?
Well, I better not get into that because I may get in trouble. Maybe I didn't get her so much. I'll tell you what, she has done. I got her a beautiful card. You know, I'm very busy to be running out looking for presents, okay? And those memos were about me, and they're phony memos. He didn't write those memos accurately. He put a lot of phony stuff. For instance, I went to Russia for a day or so, a day or two, because I own the Miss Universe pageant. So I went there to watch it because it was near Moscow. So I go to Russia. Now, I didn't go there. Everybody knows the logs are there, the planes are there. He said I didn't stay there at night. Of course I stayed there. I stayed there a very short period of time, but of course I stayed. This is a big mistake, this book. He is guilty of crimes. And if we had a Justice Department that was doing their job, instead of spending
It's your Justice Department, Mr. President. Mr. President, you're the Republican in charge. You've got a Republican running it.
What I answer this all the time. Because of the fact that they have this witch hunt going on with people in the Justice Department that shouldn't be there. They have a witch hunt against the President of the United States going on. I've taken the position, and I don't have to take this position, and maybe I'll change, that I will not be involved with the Justice Department. I will wait till this is over. It's a total, it's all lies, and it's a horrible thing that's going on, a horrible thing.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
They're commies, you know that.
Well,
they're commies.
Tough.
Well, there's Vladimir Putin. Have you ever met the guy?
Tough guy. I met him once. I don't know Putin. I have no idea. I never met Putin. I never met Putin. I don't know who Putin is. Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well because we were both on 60 Minutes. We were stablemates, and we did very well. What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently, and I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer.
And yet I've accomplished, with all of this going on, more than any president in the first year in our history. And everybody, even the enemies and the haters, admit that. But because of the fact that it's going on, and I think you'll understand this, I have decided that I won't be involved. I may change my mind at some point because what's going on is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And by the way, the only collusion is the collusion with the Democrats and the Russians. You take a look at what's going on there.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
They're commies, you know that. They're commies. Well, there's Vladimir Putin. Have you ever met the guy?
Tough guy. I met him once. I don't know Putin. I have no idea. I never met Putin.
Okay,
Let's talk about Michael Cohen. Yesterday, through his attorney, he's going to be taking the fifth. What's your reaction to that, being that you work with him for a couple of decades as your attorney?
He's a good person.
What's at stake for you, Mr. President?
Hey, look, Brian, you know Michael. Michael's been on your show, I'm sure, a lot. You know, Michael
we know.
is a good person. Let me just tell you that Michael is in business. He's really a businessman, a fairly big business, as I understand it. I don't know his business. But this doesn't have to do with me. Michael is a businessman. He's got a business. He also practices law. I would say probably the big thing is his business, and they're looking at something having to do with his business. I have nothing to do with his business. I can tell you, he's a good guy.
But isn't his business your attorney, Mr. President?
Well, I have many, just so you understand, I have many attorneys. I have attorneys. Sadly, I have so many attorneys you wouldn't even believe it.
How much of your, Mr. President, how much of your legal work was handled by Michael Cohen?
Well, as a percentage of my overall legal work, a tiny, tiny little fraction. But Michael would represent me and represent me on some things. He represents me, like with this crazy Stormy Daniels deal. He represented me, and you know, from what I see, he did absolutely nothing wrong. There were no campaign funds going into this.
Then why is he pleading the fifth?
Which would have been a problem. Because he's got other things. He's got businesses. And from what I understand, they're looking at his businesses. And I hope he's in great shape. Yeah. But he's got businesses, and his lawyers probably told him to do that. But I'm not involved, and I'm not involved. And I've been told I'm not involved.
Okay,
it came out of the newspaper.
Mr. President,
I've been told I'm not involved.
We want to get to Kanye West.
I would rather have a popular election, but it's a totally different campaign. It's as though you're running. If you're a runner, You're practicing for the 100-yard dash as opposed to the 1 mile. The Electoral College is different. I would rather have the popular vote because to me, it's much easier to win.
It's a totally different set of goals, as opposed to Electoral College.
But we have an Electoral College.
Right.
I got 306, and she got, 223. So remember, there was no way to break 270. I heard that on CBS and NBC and ABC. They're all fake news. I heard that for so long, and CNN. But I heard that for so long. There is no way. So what they're trying to do is suppress the vote.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently. And I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer.
Everyone goes home and says, I really like Donald Trump, but I've watched on the news, and they don't know it's fake news. I've taught them it's fake news.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
And how dishonest the news is. And in all fairness to Fox, you guys don't always treat me great, but you treat me fairly. It's not like Fox is perfect for me. They're not. They're tough. But at least it's fair. When you look at some of the others, you look at like a CNN, they'll have a council of 7 people. And of the 7 people, every one of them is against me. I'm saying, where do they even find these people?
I'm not your doctor, Mr. President, but I would recommend you watch less of them.
I don't watch them at all. I watched last night. I tell you what, I watched Leakin' Lion Comey last night. I don't watch them at all. And I hated to do it. One of the reasons people say you're still looking good, Mr. President. How do you do it? Well, one of the things I've been able to do, which is something I never thought I had the ability, I would always watch. Now, frankly, I don't have time for 2 reasons. There's too much, and I don't have time. But I would watch, whether it's good or bad, I'd always watch. I have an ability. I don't watch NBC anymore. They're as bad as CNN. I don't. And by the way, I made them a fortune with The Apprentice. Think of that one. I made them, and I did nicely
alma mater.
also. No, but I made them a fortune.
Right.
You would think that these guys would treat me great. I made them a fortune, so they treat me horribly, they treat me falsely. But just one thing, I don't watch things that I can put it out of my mind, and I never, ever thought that would be possible. And you know what that does? It keeps you on the ball. It keeps you, you keep your sanity. I watched last night, I tell you what, I watched Leakin' Lion Comey last night, and it works very well. But last night I did watch A Liar Leaker, and his performance, by the way, was horrible.
I never met Putin. I don't know who Putin is. Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well.
How would you grade yourself now?
Look, I'm fighting a battle against a horrible group of deep-seated people, drain the swamp, that are coming up with all sorts of phony charges against me, and they're not bringing up real charges against the other side. So we have a phony deal going on, and it's a cloud over my head, and I've been able to really escape that cloud because the message now everyone knows it's a fix, okay? It's a witch hunt, and they know that, and I've been able to message it. I would give myself an A+.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
Nobody has done what I've been able to do, and I did it despite the fact that I have a phony cloud over my head that doesn't exist.
To make you want to talk to Mueller and put an end to it? Does it make you want to talk to him? Because that's what Rudy Giuliani
is. The problem is that it's such, if you take a look, they're so conflicted.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
They're commies, you know that. They're commies. Well, it's Vladimir Putin. Have you ever met the guy?
Tough guy. I met him once. I don't know Putin. I have no idea. I never met Putin.
The people that are doing the investigation, you have 13 people that are Democrats. You have Hillary Clinton people. You have people that worked on Hillary Clinton's foundation. They're all, I don't mean Democrats. I mean like the real deal.
Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well.
And then you look at the phony Lisa Page and Strzok and the memos back and forth in the FBI. And by the way, you take a poll at the FBI. I love the FBI. The FBI loves me. But the top people in the FBI, headed by Comey, were crooked. You look at McCabe, where he takes $700,000 from somebody supporting Hillary Clinton. He takes $700,000 for his wife's campaign. And by the way, didn't even spend that money. They kept some of it because under that law, she took $700,000 from a group headed by Terry McAuliffe, who was under investigation by McCabe and the FBI, and that investigation disappeared. He took $700,000. And you look at the corruption at the top of the FBI, it's a disgrace.
I want to get right to breaking news right now. President Trump is just tweeting about the FBI director. Here's what he says. I will be nominating Christopher A. Wray, a man of impeccable credentials, to be the next director of the FBI. Details to follow.
And our Justice Department, which I try and stay away from, but at some point I won't. Our Justice Department should be looking at that kind of stuff, not the nonsense of collusion with Russia. There is no collusion with me and Russia, and everyone knows it.
Everyone, we could talk to you all day, but it looks like you have a million things to do. But I hope you could join us again, Mr. President.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Good luck with your book. It's going to be a winner.
Thank you so much.
And happy birthday to Melania.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next Thursday, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phone lines open.
Call in again sometime.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Bye.
Very nice to call in.
Donald Trump has taken to Twitter again in the latest riposte against claims made in a new book about his administration. The US president says two of his greatest assets have been mental stability and being really smart. He adds he went from being a very successful businessman to a top TV star to president at his first attempt, a route he concludes has resulted in him being a very stable genius.
In just the last few minutes, the president has sent out some remarkable tweets, and I just have to read them because I almost can't believe them. Now that Russian collusion, after 1 year of intense study, has proven to be a total hoax on the American public, the Democrats and their lapdogs, the fake news mainstream media, are taking out the old Ronald Reagan playbook and screaming mental stability and intelligence.
Actually, he goes on to say, throughout my life, my two greatest assets have been mental stability and being, like, really smart.
And he literally writes, like,
I'm not throwing
really
that in there,
smart.
yes, I want to point out. Like, really smart. Crooked Hillary Clinton also played these cards very hard and, as everyone knows, went down in flames. I went from very successful businessman to top TV star to president of the United States on my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart but genius, and a very stable genius at that.
The president says he's, like, really smart.